Hey folks, it's Ardwulf. Welcome. This is an unboxing video of an unshrink-wrapped product from Kevin Zucker, the designer, and the Operational Studies Group. It is the brand new Bonaparte in the Quadrilateral, War of the First Coalition Part 2, 1796 to 1797. Of course, this is one of Napoleon's earliest campaigns, not the first time he saw action, but pretty early. And it is a campaign that we haven't really seen that many games about. So very interested to get this in finally and get this to the table. This is the 2022 new game from OSG. There is a reprint as well, which there will be an unboxing video for along shortly. And then we got in the box, we got a little ad for Bonaparte Overruns Piedmont, which is going to be released for next year. And that is sequentially, chronologically, going to be the War of the First Coalition Part 1, with Montenotte, Dago, San Michel, and Mondovi. I'll be honest, I've never heard of any of those battles. And I should have, because I've read Chandler, but not that recently. All of these battles I've heard of, or at least remember something about. This one, not so much. But this is available for pre-order now. We'll talk about that next year when it comes out. In the meantime, let's take a look at Bonaparte and the Quadrilateral. For those who don't know, OSG does not shrink wrap their stuff, so it comes in a pretty standard 2-inch box. Open her up. Now, recent games in the Library of Napoleonic Battles series have not included the card deck. If you own, so the games used to come with a customized card deck in each game. That is no longer the case. There is now a universal card deck, which came in the game Napoleon's Wheel. So if you have Napoleon's Wheel, which is the Austerlitz campaign, you do not need to buy a deck from OSG. But if you don't have Napoleon's Wheel, which I'm pretty sure is still available, highly recommended, by the way, then you will need to order both a Coalition and a French deck from OSG, and I want to say they're about $20 or something like that. So we get a big stack of maps here. We get 5 maps. Wow, that's a lot of maps. Okay, so they're not all full-sized, as is pretty typical for these games. Now, these are in sort of an old-fashioned, parchmenty-looking map style that I really like. Here is the city of Lodi, or Lodi, Italy. Unlike the city of Lodi, California, or the smaller city of Lodi, Ohio. This is 10th May 1796. And it looks like this is a half-sized map. Put that over there. Now here we have a full-size. I feel like the other maps are, yeah, the other maps are absolutely full-sized. So this is going to be Rivoli, and it looks like some of these can be combined too. Yeah, that's what it looks like. So we've got 4 full-size maps plus a half-size map here. There's a lot going on here on this thing. Here's Castiglione. Here's Mantua. Here's Arcole. Okay. So at some point for the campaign, it looks like you combine. Yeah, you absolutely do. You combine these 2 maps, can stack together, so you can get that sort of operational feel on a bigger map that I think this series really does well, as opposed to just kind of setting up Quatrabond, playing a smaller battle out. Those are fun, but they're pretty short experiences. And if you want a richer experience, the big campaigns on connected, contiguous maps are where it's at. All right, so we have, again, completely typical for OSG, we have 2 counter sheets here. Now, I have heard something about some people having problems with counter resolution in OSG games, and while I'm not saying those people are wrong, I am willing to say that I have not personally observed that in any way. These are on a fairly thick brown core stock. Obviously, the French are in blue. The Austrians are going to be largely in white. This is a campaign largely against the Austrians. And I was going to say the Piedmontese, but no, that's going to be in Volume 1. That's coming out next year. And here we have our general marker sheet. Now, these demoralization markers are used on a track to track points. You kind of get like a whole set of them, but only in some of the games. It's kind of weird. So you kind of have to break. I have like a big tray that contains all of these things. So you kind of have to figure out, okay, so which formations are in the game, and then put those markers in this game, and then figure out what markers you need for a different game, and sort it all out that way. And it's, like I said, it's a little bit of an unconventional way to do counters, but you know, if it works for OSG, and the games are good, and that's an idiosyncrasy I personally am willing to forgive. So. All right, so we have the series rules. This is version 7.35. Not sure what the last one I had was, but I am, as of literally an hour and a half ago, I am 100% up to date on this series. So the rule book is I think 24-page. It's full color, but you hardly notice, right? It's not exactly the most lavish use of full color, which sounds like a criticism and shouldn't. Because I think the use of color here is completely fine, and because there isn't a lot of flashy backgrounds and strange textures, doesn't bother me at all. If it's clear, the use of color is good here. It's not fancy. This, on the other hand, looks like a photograph of that table, which is super weird. So it's a bit idiosyncratic, but this is basically a one-man I don't know that it's true to call it a one-man operation, but it certainly feels like it is. So that's the series rules for the Library of Napoleonic Battles. And then we have, as usual, again, whole stack of player aids. There's going to be a turn record track for each of the battles and or campaigns. So here's Lodi, or Lodi. I actually looked up how the Italians pronounce that. They pronounce it Lodi, or more or less anyway. Lenato, Wormser's Missed Opportunity, Castiglione, La Favorita, Caldiero Arcole. So as you can see, there's a lot of different, and each of these kind of represents, I'm kind of using a shorthand here, but each of these cards kind of represents a turn record track for an individual scenario. So you can see there's 4 or 5 battles in this set, which is almost the case with all of them. But then you have a lot of different scenarios and different ways to play those battles. We'll take a look at that when we look at the playbook in a second here. So we have now upgraded to full color setup sheets. These are, I'll be honest, a bit hard to read, but you do kind of get used to it too, even if the print is like on this one, which the print is really kind of tiny. So here's the Austrians. And you get kind of a column for each battle. So here is the casualty records, and this is what you track the core with the core markers on. They're typically cores. French Fog of War Index. These are the little leaflets that show you how to use. They're not leaflets anymore, actually. How to use the card decks, which are optional, by the way. You don't have to use them. The universal card decks in this particular game. So you get one for each side. You get a weather table. You get some holding boxes. These are pretty unfancy, but I imagine that they're probably printed in bulk too. Here is the main player aid card, which contains the bombardment, the combat results table, the charge combat table, the shock combat table. Most of the game runs off this thing, and then you have this bigger one that has that same front, plus some extra tables on the inside, including the TRC. Here's more on the cards. Orders slips. These should not be interpreted as written orders in the denessing system sense. These are more written orders in the sense of you have to have your units in command to make them do things, but if you give them a march order that says go march to Rivoli, for example, they will continue to march to Rivoli even without necessarily being in command on the way. Here is more on the cards. This tells you which cards to take out for any individual game. And here's the victory worksheet, which you should photocopy before writing on. You are supposed to write on that. At least that's how I've done it in the past. All right, so now the scenario. So the scenario book is, well, it looks like feels like about 24 pages as well. Yeah, 24 pages. So let's actually look at this. So, scenarios. There are some game-specific rules in the front. Not a lot. There typically aren't that much here. The system is strong enough to support battles throughout the Napoleonic Wars. without really requiring much in the way of special rules for each game. There's a little, but there's not usually very much. Here's Victory Computations. Okay, so here's the Battle of Lodi. Okay, the Battle of Castiglione. Here's the Lenato mini-campaign. Wormser's army crosses the Mincio while the battle rages at Lenato, okay. The Battle of Arcole. The Battle of Rivoli. Looking at the scenarios for extra variants. The Siege of Mantova, or Mantua. Now this one's going to have another variant scenario here. Here's the Caldiero mini-campaign, 12 to 17, November 1796. And then here's the Grand Campaign, August 1796 to January 1797. So, does it tell us what maps to use? Looks like we're using 2 maps on that. Okay, and then here's the always copious and incisive historical notes from Mr. Zucker. These are always a great read. And as you can see, there's quite a bit. And a large bibliography. Well, I don't know about large, but there's at least 25 sources here on the bibliography. A couple of these I've read, not too many. Chandler's in here, for example. That's the book everybody starts with. It's got its weaknesses as a source on the whole period, but also highly recommended by virtually everybody. And then here's more charts and tables. Okay, so let's see if we can get all this back in a box. Now, one of the idiosyncrasies of the series is that because it's a card-assisted thing, with the card decks, you can generally get the card decks back in the box if you package them individually. There's 2 separate decks, one for the French and one for the Coalition, along with 1 counter tray. So I've always had to manage to get all of these games into 1 counter tray. But fortunately, that's always actually worked out. I have no reason to question that it will work out here. Very handsome. Matches the trade dress of the rest of the series. Bonaparte in the Quadrilateral, a brand new release from OSG and designer Kevin Zucker. Thank you for watching. If you found the video useful or entertaining, please do give it a thumbs up. Please do subscribe to the channel. Click the little bell icon to get notified when new content comes out. If you'd like to help support the channel, it would be much appreciated. You can check out the links in the video description to the Patreon, the merch store, and the Ko-Fi. Until next time, thanks again for watching, and happy wargaming.